Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. So I have two people on here that are going to try their best to make me entertain the possibility that there is a god or, believe in one and all that kind of stuff. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll go first. My name is Salad Butter. I've been Christian for like seriously for like 2 years now. I was raised in like Christian home, but I never really knew God. But I've been getting it like seriously now for the past 2 years, and I really feel like I've been having a relationship with Him now.
All right. Cool. What about you?
All right, my name is Kurt, and I've recently kind of just gotten into like Christianity and stuff. Like I've always, been around it, but at first I didn't really believe in it.
Hmm.
I'm kind of lukewarm right now, but I'm gonna keep like studying and doing my works. But yeah,
Yeah. That's what I think that's what we're all doing here. We're trying to like see like different perspectives and whatnot. So this ought to be interesting. I hope we can cook up something that people on either of our sides can have like something to scratch their heads over.
Yeah,
All right. So I think I guess because you guys are essentially the ones that like believe in God, maybe like one of you ought to take it away. I don't know if there's like any particular questions you want to ask me or like some sort of like hypothetical, but yeah, I think just because you guys are the ones that believe, it makes sense to go in like that direction first, I suppose.
all right. Well, I think I'll go first.
All right, go ahead.
What I would say to you is, I would ask you a question, and I would say, wouldn't it be more logical to believe that there is a God than there isn't, because of the fact that there isn't really evidence that disproves there being a God? Rather, it proves more that there is a God.
Um, I'll meet you in the middle here. I am more agnostic atheist, and I know that to some people that's like a contradiction, but like I don't think it is. But like I'll explain my position this way. I think yeah, perhaps there could be a god. It's more so that like in my point of view, I think humanity needs to come up with like better like evidence for it because I think at least like the things that we've gathered, at least the things that like I've assessed, sorry, don't like really like head in that. So like when you say it's more logical to think that there ought to be a god more than there isn't, I guess then I would ask you like what compels you to say that? Because for me it's actually the other excuse me, the other way around. Like I don't deny that I know for sure that like there isn't a god. I just think more likely there isn't, and on a practical level we should act as if there isn't. But yeah, go ahead.
I can agree with you that humans, like over the centuries and years, have made up gods and like fairy
Mhm.
tales. But I believe that in Christianity, our God is like far from those stories. I genuinely think like the historical facts, the manuscripts, all these old, very old written, before Christ, after, like during Christ and after Christ. I do feel like that compels me in a way,
Mhm.
but I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I I don't know. See, like, cause like that's the thing. Cause like, I mean, I suppose you guys could like kind of see it, like, because I don't really believe I have more of like a skeptic lens. I've been questionable in general towards like the narratives that like we've been fed. So, like, for example, when you talk about like historical accounts where like people supposedly saw this or like things that sound like supernatural, I mean, going at it from like my point of view, I don't really know how to take it at like face value, I guess, because like all those things, all those claims that people have supposedly said have happened throughout like history, and kind of like what you said, yeah, like people have created like numerous gods like all throughout the. I don't really see a difference in terms of like Christianity, I guess. So I guess like then I would simply just have to ask you again, like what compels you to see more seriousness in that rather than let's say the other religions that even you yourself have said are fairy tales.
Well, I wouldn't say the other religions are fairy tale. I was talking about mainly like zoos and stuff like that. Those are like, I think those
Zeus.
were ways of humans like coping with like it when it rained hard or stuff
Mm.
like that.
Well, I mean, but I think
Fire.
they genuinely believed it though, because like I think you can genuinely believe something even if it's not true, and obviously not to like like be rude to you guys or like anything like
No,
that.
you agree.
I
yeah.
I don't see Christianity as like any different because I think like you guys have probably heard it like over like a million times. I think it's cope as well. So what would make it not cope in this case, I guess?
Well, it I can't really be cope if Christ was an actual like historical figure.
Um I think sure. I mean even if I can like entertain the fact that like you know Jesus like was a real person and like whatnot, I still think his reputation is like kind of questionable, obviously, because like if you have somebody that claims that like they're like the son of God and like whatnot, I mean, I'm not saying oh my gosh slaughter him because that's supposedly like the narrative and like all that kind of stuff. So like I'm not trying to justify that here in that case, but like you can understand how that sounds pretty extraordinary, doesn't it?
I can agree, but then there's also evidence of his apostles, literally not denying the fact that he rose from the dead and dying
Supposedly,
as
yeah.
that.
But I think like we kind of like run into like the same issue again because I'm just like, why am I supposed to take it at face value? And the other thing that like I see is that like, yeah, they were his apostles, his followers, like whatever you want to call it. So like, why would they not be in support of a narrative that makes him look good? Like whether or not it was true or false, like especially if it was false, they wouldn't want people to think that. I would think.
Well, I mean, the way I take it, right? I just personally wouldn't. How can I say this? I would take it seriously if a group of people, like, and not just like 10, like way more, died for the truth. Like, I wouldn't take it as they're just lying for fun and just dying for fun.
Well,
And besides, he also appeared to 500 people after he died over
sure.
the course of what, like 3 days, and
E-
they said they saw him, and because of that, they started worshiping on Sunday because in celebration that he came back, and that's right after the fact.
Sure, sure. But then like at the same time you guys would admit though that people can die for things that are like well I mean because like it's arbitrary in general like what is worth dying for because like for example in history like there were people that were martyrs, people have died for like all sorts of causes, so like in a sense why isn't it not possible that someone can die for something that still kind of like what I said, they can genuinely believe it's true, but like
Well, they
isn't
doubted
that
themselves. Like people wouldn't, like one of his apostles, they wouldn't even believe until they saw him, until he touched them. And,
hmm.
then
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
but like for example, people have killed themselves as well for like what they believe in. Because like for example, obviously this doesn't speak for like all Muslims, but like let's say like the ones that have committed like terrorist attacks, they died hard for their beliefs as well. So I don't necessarily believe that dying for something immediately like also indicates truth. Because like for example, I don't think you guys would condone like suicide bombings, but those people clearly, if we're gonna use death as like a marker for like, oh, this ideology is like super serious, then why doesn't that apply there technically?
okay, well, is Christ reliable to you? Is he trustworthy to you?
I mean, I wouldn't know because it's like, or because at least like kind of like what I said, like all of these things, like religions and like all this kind of stuff in general, it's like they seem like they should just be taken at face value. And I don't know if you guys are like this, but for example, I'm not a person that denies mass hysteria. I believe that mass hysteria is possible, and I can't think of examples off the top of my head. I can only think of, for example, like Salem witch trials, let's say. But it's like a whole group of people can believe something that like isn't true, and also not to mention I know a lot of people want to say that mass hysteria isn't possible because, oh, how can we all be wrong, sort of like attitude. But then at the same time, I would simply just raise this. If assuming that there is something that we all believe in that's false, of course it will fall under the illusion like it's true because nobody would be there to contradict anybody because we all believe in it, assuming that like it's false, but we wouldn't know. So I don't think anyone can actually scratch mass hysteria off the table.
Okay, well, okay, other religions. So you just have to look at the other religions, right? You have to say which one is more reliable, which one has like the least like contradictions, because there are like Hinduism. There's like 300 million gods. They have like yoga and stuff where you worship these gods, and you just have to take in all the evidence, like which one is more reliable. And to me, like I've read the Quran, I've read the Bible, the Torah, the all that, and to me the most reliable one is Jesus Christ, what he said. what he died for. He died. He lived an incredible life. He said he was God in the flesh, and he backed up that audacious claim by living a perfectly sinless life and dying on the cross and resurrecting back.
Okay, I want to pick your perspective here like a bit more. Like, obviously, I don't believe in God, so I'm not like a polytheist either. But you seem to say that like Hinduism doesn't seem to make sense because they have like multiple gods, and I guess like just to see where we can go like in this conversation, I'm kind of curious what you or you guys would say like in general because I some people that believe in those, I would imagine. I'm not an expert at that, admittedly, but like I would imagine that like they think that multiple gods actually does make more sense. And obviously, I don't believe in multiple gods, but maybe in a way I'm entertaining it, kind of like what I said, just to like yeah, like pick what you might like say about it, because essentially I think the idea of an omniscient, omnipotent God is paradoxical. So, at the very least, if there were hypothetically multiple gods, like, I don't know all the gods in like Hinduism, but like, or even like, yeah, like, oh, this is the god of this is the god of that. I think they would rationalize it by like simply saying that, like, oh, it makes sense because if one god, whatever they want to call it, is focused on like a particular sort of like area, it makes sense that that would be like their specialty because I don't know how many like I guess non-religious people you guys have like spoken to like in particular because like I guess I think this is a good jumping off point to talk about have you guys heard of like omniscience paradox or even like omnipotence paradox?
No, not really.
No, no.
Okay. Well, simply I guess it like negates the idea of like an all-powerful God, even though yes, I am still saying that like multiple gods still wouldn't make sense to me either. But like for example, and I'm aware there are arguments against it, but I'm still sort of convinced by it. So I guess like I'll just do a quick rundown for like both of it and then like see how you guys feel because like yeah, I think the idea of a god existing that's like supposedly like omnipotent is that it doesn't really make any sense because if we assume that a god is like all powerful, that's a very contradictory existence because like for example, I think the most common example that people use is that like oh, can God be so powerful to create a rock so heavy that even he himself can't lift it? And then it like like so for example, how would that go about?
Um, what I would say, right? Hinduism is honestly kind of bad, like thing to use because they have like animal gods. But to your point, anyway, what I see it as, it doesn't make sense to us. Like we can't really comprehend it. So obviously, I think that if if there is such an how do you say that word, omnipotent God,
Yeah, yeah,
he
omnipotent.
would he would just be able to do infinite things. He would be able to do whatever he wants, even if it doesn't make sense to us.
But I mean, like it sounds like a cop out though, or I guess like, well, I mean, I know you guys could possibly talk about like the whole like element of faith or something, but I think like that's essentially the thing that like I struggle with ultimately because like I don't understand how I'm supposed to accept something if it's not be able, if it's not like able to like make sense for me because like my attitude is more like if I can't put it in my own words, I probably don't know what I'm talking about.
Okay, listen, man. If you want to find God, okay, look, I'll give you an analogy. Like a science experiment. It's repeatability. Like if you want to find God, a science experiment, right? You would like in order to find God, in order to seek Him, you'd have to talk to Him. You need to seek a relationship. You need to have a desire to talk to Him if you want to find God, and and you just like what the independent variable would be praying, and dependent variable would be what how would it affect my relationship with God, or how would it affect my life? Then you keep doing it, doing it, and then you see if God is real, because He will respond to you. He'll answer you. I'm telling you right here.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this. I have tried to pray before. Or, okay, I mean, I guess then I'm curious because, like, when you say God will respond to you, then I'm just like, what does that mean? And like, I'm genuinely asking,
Okay,
did you hear a
listen, listen,
voice?
listen.
Did you? I don't know.
Okay, listen. An atheist is running away from God for the same reason a criminal runs from the police. Okay, he has no desire to meet Him. If you don't want to meet God, you won't meet God. If you don't want to find God, you won't find Him. But I can promise you, God is not gonna play hide and seek with you. If you have a desire to meet Him, He'll reveal Himself to you. And I don't know how, I don't know when or where, but he will reveal himself to you if you want to seek and find him.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that like analogy because like here's the thing. I don't think or like I'm aware we all have bias, obviously, but like my attitude is more like
Yes, yes.
I don't think I should dictate the conclusion before I find like what like leads up to it. So like if you're trying to say from like what I'm understanding with this like analogy that like you're using is because like a criminal is trying to escape, like prosecution and like getting like in trouble or something. I don't necessarily think that's the case for me because like even if hypothetically there is a god and I don't agree with like I don't know, for example, let's say his rules or like whatever and like all that kind of stuff, I'll still acknowledge that god. Me being against that god is like a completely like like separate like
Yeah, yeah.
conversation to have. But it's like even this then like I don't think that's necessarily the same because like it's not like a criminal is denying that prison exists. That's what they're trying to like obviously because like that's happening. This is here in the real world. When we're talking about God, this is more like, for like lack of a better way of saying it, like I don't know, a big picture thing, sort of, whatever.
Yeah, because there's the natural world and then there's the spiritual world. Because like there's like a spiritual battle, like war going on around us. There's like, because listen, demons are real. Okay, I've seen demons like cast out of people. If demons are real, angels are real, God is real. Okay, I've seen there's literally like these like these places where like people organize these places, right? And they go to these places and they like it's called a mass deliverance, like massive deliverance. It's where you come, they get the demons out of you, okay, and they literally talk to the demons, okay. Like the demons, they talk to the person. There's literally demons of lust, demons of blasphemy. You get all of a sudden get thoughts in your head about blaspheming God, f God or something like that. And there's all these kinds of demons. If demons are real, God is real. I've literally seen these demons. I've been to these places, man.
Okay. I see. Okay. I think. Okay. Another thing we should talk about. I think because you mentioned like, okay, demons, angels, God, like the spiritual world, the natural world. I think like, okay, then I think it makes sense that like we have to talk about like materialism. I guess I wouldn't necessarily call myself like a hardcore materialist. Like I know that like for example, oh, if yeah, you're like non-religious, you don't believe in anything like spiritual or something like that, then like this natural world, like you would have to have like a naturalist point of view. See, here's the thing. I think that makes more sense from like a practical point of view. But then, for example, I know there are like philosophical things like solipsism. Oh, it's just happening in my head. Nobody can prove or disprove that. Am I a natural matter? I mean, I don't even know. Like it gets more like super like complicated. But I guess like I would pick you guys further to say, for example, that like okay, how do you know there's like a spiritual world, I guess technically, because like and like again, not to be rude, I'm just trying to like like
Yeah, yeah.
expand the conversation further because it's like so for example, then what crosses the line then? Because like is there such a thing as like a hallucination? Because I'm not trying to
Yes,
attack
yes.
anybody, for example, but I'm just like it would make more probable sense to me that if somebody was claiming something that I guess was outside of this natural world, that something only they can personally like, then they're probably experiencing some sort of I don't know, whatever you want to call it, psychosis, schizophrenia, I don't know.
Okay, well, listen. There's also a spirit of infirmity. I think it's called. Now, these things, they can cause random like body ailments or whatever, like random pains, random diseases. And I kid you not, this one time, this guy he went to the like these deliverance services, right? He got the demon cast out of him, and he went because this guy has leukemia. He has this leukemia. He goes to the doctor and he says, "Your leukemia is gone. What happened to it?" And he says the demon, it was causing it. And this has happened with tuberculosis or whatever. Like this has happened
Tuberculosis.
all kinds of diseases and stuff. Like the spirit of infirmity.
um that does sound amazing, like I'll
Yes.
I'll admit, but then at the same time it's like I mean how like people's like medical state is a very like complicated subject. Well, I mean, I just mean
Yeah. Yeah. It
complicated
is.
in the sense that like, okay, for example, certain people have like different tolerances. Oh my gosh, I smoked a bunch of cigarettes, now I have cancer. That old guy is still smoking, and he's reached this far. Blah blah, blah this and that. Because like, I mean, yeah, again, like, how would I take it as simplistic as that? For example, because like, for example, like, if somebody were to hypothetically get like cancer treatment and they go through like shit, what do you call that? Where it's like they go through the break.
Chemotherapy.
Oh right, yeah, that, yeah. chemotherapy, and then like suddenly they're okay, and for example they can like attribute it to like God like saving them or something like that, even though like no, it was the medical practicing, it was the this, it was the that, or it's like where where do we reach this line, or where do you reach this line where it's like it had influences outside of the natural world that made this person either okay or not okay?
Well, because the
Um,
thing, yeah, Chris, go ahead.
I would say I would ask you if you believe in miracles. Do you believe in miracles?
No, not really. I mean, because like if you mean miracle in the sense of like a good thing happening, it's like that's kind of subjective at best to a person. Like like a good thing happening. I don't so or like when you say miracle, like what does that like entail exactly? Because like I can believe good things happen, but even the things that I think are personally good, but it's like they have logical reasons. Like for example, like if somebody is saved at a hospital, then the logical explanation for me to like better accept is that like the doctor did it, not some outside force.
Well, there's been a bunch of cases where the doctors, or let's just say surgeons, can't save this person, but somehow the person who is saved, and the probability chance of like them even surviving is like zero, and it's happened a bunch of times. I would
Well,
say
I'm sorry.
miracle is something like, for example, have you ever like in your life, whatever years you've been on this earth, have like,
23.
how can I say this, like struggled so much that you just didn't even know if you were going to pass that point, and you did, and that could be a miracle that you might just not know.
I mean, probably life is ups and downs, I guess. Probably. But okay, then I guess like the other thing that like I would simply have to ask though is because like even in these like instances where it's just like oh, suddenly they're okay, even though the most probable like thing would have been they wouldn't have been okay, like then I guess the thing that I would ask is like how do we know this isn't just a projection? Because I feel like it would be super easy that if something were to turn our heads and it's like a good like fortunate thing, people want to suddenly like prescribe that it was some sort of like spiritual entity, some sort of like I don't know, magical force that like made it this way. But hypothetically, if we know, then because like that's what the medical field is all trying to do, like in general, like find better medicine, find better ways to like treat and like take care of people. So what if there is crucial information because of these like rare instances that we don't even know yet, and we simply just like have to get them? Because like it seems to me that like okay, a good thing happened, and then suddenly people just want to grab something that's supposedly beyond human comprehension as to explain why. Does that make sense, or should I say that in a different way?
Can you say it again in a different way?
Okay. Like with these things happening, what if we simply don't know why this person like defied the odds in like being okay?
Yes.
Like how do you know that it was truly some sort of like yeah, God, I don't know, some sort of like outside spiritual
Somehow,
entity that
okay.
made this happen?
Okay. Well, I know this one story, but I kind of forgot it. But I won't go into it. But if you go on YouTube, there's like countless testimonies of these miracles. Okay, if you want to know what a miracle from God is, you look at these testimonies. They'll tell you. I mean, yeah,
I mean,
Um,
I believe a miracle could be anything, honestly.
yeah, yeah.
Like, there's a case of 200 men in Gaza who had a, you know, uh, what do they call it? I mean, basically, it was a dream, and they all saw Jesus Christ, and they all started following Christianity. That's a miracle, I think. I mean, I'd say so.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a
I
like
would
yeah,
say like maybe you got shot and there's no one to help you, and you end up surviving longer than you should have. I think that's a miracle. I mean, there's a lot of things are miracles.
well, I think the like issue with that though is that like because like obviously you guys are holding some sort of like special connotation when you say something's like a miracle because like for example I can list things perhaps like in my life that have been like good, let's say, or like things that I'm like, oh, I'm glad I went through like this experience, but it's like I don't see the connection that any of it necessarily had to do with some sort of like outside force. And I think like that's the issue for me though, is because like even if I like listen to like a testimony, it's someone subscribing it to God, and I'm just like, okay, how do you actually know that though? Oh, because like this is and if it's not, then like please like correct me, because like this is a fallacy. I'm forgetting what it's called, but it's essentially like just because two events are followed by another, that doesn't necessarily mean they have like a connection. I don't know if you know the fallacy I'm talking about.
No, not really.
Oh,
But I
okay.
would say,
Um, okay. Like, I'll just I don't know if this would be the best example, but I'll try to like paint a picture of. You've seen Big Bang Theory, right?
yeah,
I'm sorry to rely on this, but like, do you remember that episode when they came back from the North Pole because they were doing like research or some shit?
yeah. I ain't watched too many of those, but nah, I don't. I'm gonna be honest.
Oh wait, shit, I forgot. No, I didn't forget, but I think like yeah, that's called like it's called like a post hoc fallacy, because like I'll just come up with one that I guess sounds like incredibly stupid. Like the Columbine shooters, one of them was named Dylan. So this is proof that people that are named Dylan commit school shootings. Like obviously that sounds like that sounds really stupid, right?
Yeah, yeah, I get your point.
Yeah. So
I,
it's basically like yeah, these two connections are like not necessarily together just because I can make that shallow line.
but then again, like you talked about the guy, basically kind of being biased and just describing, what he likes. I would challenge you and say that, before that happened, he was just a regular person who probably didn't believe in God. So
I'm sorry, what?
I said I would challenge you and basically say, like, the guy who you were talking about being biased and describing God because he encountered him. I would basically say before that dream or whatever prediction, prophecy, I don't know, whatever, he didn't really know God. He was just a regular man living his life.
Hmm.
So, like, you really have to wonder, like, is this just a normal occurrence every day, or not?
Then um then can I ask what the difference would be then? Because like yeah, like I know you're trying to tell me that like for example there were once people who didn't believe in God and then now they didn't prior believe in God and then suddenly have had some sort of like life changing experience and then suddenly they believe in God. I want to know why that hypothetically makes more sense and is more believable than, because like for example there are people that like used to believe in God apparently, but then they heard, let's say, atheist secular arguments, and then they weren't like convinced of God. So then I guess I want to ask, for example, why would somebody who didn't believe in God and suddenly believes in God now has a like proper true transition versus someone that was hypothetically, like in the reverse. They once believed in God and now they don't. Are you going to say, for example, that like, oh, they didn't really know God when they claimed they know God? Because then I feel like I could also say the same thing in terms of like, oh, then maybe when that person didn't claim that they didn't believe in God, they weren't really not believing in God either. So, like, what would be the difference then?
Um, you could say faith. You could just say, maybe like studying the book. Maybe they didn't know too much, and you could also argue for the one that you said, the opposite.
Hmm.
It really goes both ways.
Yeah. So that's what makes it more, yeah, complicated for me to just like bite that bullet and be like, okay, there's a God, because like, okay, then like, what are the clear answers to these questions? Because I feel like if we knew, then we would layer it out better. Okay, is God actually believable or not?
Okay, well, what's cause what's a miracle for you then? Like, if give me an example of what, if God did a miracle in your life, what would persuade you of that miracle?
I don't know. That's a difficult question, because it's like, if we're simply just talking about miracles, like I can tell you cool things that I wish would be cool. It's like if they were like outside of like practicality, yeah, I would call it like a miracle. But then at the same time, I would still have to know the inner mechanisms, I guess, like in terms of like what made that happen. Because like for example, like I don't know, that's a bit complicated. 'Cause it's like asking me, what would it take for you guys to like not believe in God then? Because like I would imagine if we knew the answer to either of these questions, we'd do a 180 in our beliefs right now.
Okay, well, so you want to know if a miracle is from God or it's just chance?
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because like it's another like I guess like debate or question about like probabilities and whatnot, or not even just that. It's like it's people's like overall bias in terms of like what is a good event even. So it's like not even just about chance. Even if we layer out what is a miracle, it's like well yeah you know what I'm trying to say. I think more or less.
Okay, well, okay. If you prayed to God and He answered your prayer, wouldn't that be a miracle? Or because you're a skeptic, right? You're a skeptic. So,
Yeah, I'm a
because
questioner.
God can talk to you. You know that He can talk to you with His voice. I know someone who's talking to God. He said, "I'm waiting for your response." He talks to him with his voice. Like you could, I know you could just say he's imaginating, but you know, like what
I mean, yeah,
you can't explain that. You can't explain that.
if that happened to me, I admittedly, if that happened to me, I think like I always thought about that. For example, it's like I would have to know like how I know this is like real essentially because it's like I would question like because like for example, do you guys think schizophrenia is a thing? Because like if it's not real, then that sounds like schizophrenia, and I think we would really have to rule that out. Because like if you, I mean like that's textbook definition of schizophrenia. Like if you're hearing a voice in your head that is not your own, then yeah, that's hearing voices.
But then again, we'd have to really like kind of steady. For example, okay. So let's say the guy, he said he heard God. Okay,
Mm.
we'd have to basically ask him questions of, for example, how did you feel? Like his presence, like what did he say? How did he speak? Like what was it, telling you to do? You'd have to really just study, what the guy went through, his experience.
Sure.
Yeah, because when God talks to you, you feel something. My other friend, I know him since like a long time, since like we were kids, like little kids,
Mm.
and he said that when he was a little kid, he said he heard God talk to him and he got scared and God chuckled at him. He's like it was pure love, like his voice was pure love. He felt it, and it's just amazing.
Oh, okay.
Like
Then, oh, sorry.
yeah, go.
Oh, I was gonna say, then like even if that's all like like said and fine, I guess you guys would still I feel kind of had to admit that like people still do hear voices regardless because like then how do you guys feel about like
Yeah.
those situations where people have done some like fucked up shit, like maybe they killed somebody, maybe they did this, and it's like they say it's because like God ordered them to or something, or like people have claimed like
Okay,
all
listen,
sorts of
listen.
things, so
Yeah.
it's like yeah.
Okay, listen. That if they say that is either that's a demon. Okay, because when people have voices in their head, that's a demon. If they speak like if they use plural, we, us, stuff like that, that's demon. Because like murderers, like if they say, "Oh, it wasn't me, I blacked out," you know, if they say, "I'm hearing voices in my head," it says us, we, that's a demon. And like I said, the spirit of
Well,
infirmity, it can cause mental illnesses as well. It can cause mental illnesses like the leukemia. It's also happened with mental illnesses as well, like schizophrenia.
okay,
That literally went away.
okay, but that wouldn't be mental illness though, hypothetically, because like I was about to say, like, I mean, obviously, I'd still be questioning of that, because like even if we're talking about God's voice, even if we're talking about like a demon, like to me, it's the same. Like, arguably, the most
Mm-hmm.
logical conclusion would be, yes, this person is probably a schizophrenic. If they're hearing any voice, whether it's God, whether it's a demon, like anything, yeah, to me, it's most likely something like schizophrenia. So I guess like I would simply say, shit,
Okay,
I'm
well,
trying to
let me
think.
give you this one story. This is crazy. Okay, this other guy I know a lot of people. Okay, this other guy, he uh, he wanted to know if God was like he was like an atheist, and he was like he's
Oh
been
wait,
crying
yeah,
out to the
yeah.
sky for like weeks. God, are you real? Like, show me the
Mm.
truth. this one time he opened his eyes, he saw Jesus standing right in front of him, and he's like, I can't describe how he says it, but like he's like emanating this glory, his light, and like when he waves his hand, like all the creation is like reacting to his hand, like
Uh-huh.
ripples, like in the water,
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
and then he talks to him. He says, Jesus literally talks to him. He says, I don't remember the story perfectly, but he actually talks to him. So this is literally a vision, and like oral auditory
Mhm.
vision, talking to him, encounter with Jesus Christ. Like 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 this is how this is what Christianity is about: having a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Mhm, mhm. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot what I was gonna say because I'm just like, oh yeah, because like I guess like I'm still asking the same thing. It's like because like if you can say that demons cause mental illness and all of it is just seemingly mental illness in general, because like I was even gonna say because like it wouldn't be mental illness though, because like hypothetically if what you're saying is true and that like demons can like influence people in like a certain way like
Yes,
yeah
yeah.
like and you're treating it as if like it's real, then wouldn't that not be mental illness? Because if you're talking about something that's legitimate, then we should be able to see how it's legitimate, like it wouldn't be a, oh,
Well,
demons are causing mental illness. Like no, demons are actually doing this because demons are supposedly real according to you.
Um.
because there's a difference between actual mental illness and demons. Okay, because the
True.
way the
Yeah,
way you
yeah.
test this out is you have to make the demon known to you. Like you have to, because demons manifest. You have to make it known. Like, because like this, manifest and makes itself revealed.
Hmm.
That's the distinction between mental illness and demon.
Yeah, but I think
Because demons they talk. If you won't have a demon if you don't like because in the Bible there's desires of the flesh, and the flesh doesn't talk. So if you're hearing voices, that's a demon.
I
Like
mean,
telling you, like persuading you, like having thoughts that you don't want to do.
mhm. But I think the issue is though is that because we only see things from like an external point of view, I this is why I think you could imagine like I require like a bit more because like regardless of like what somebody's saying, if they're talking about something, I guess in how you guys define it, like the spiritual world, because I'm just like I don't think we live there, obviously. So it's like yeah, like that's a blurry like arbitrary line to me. So it's just like again, it's just like I have a hard time taking this at like face value.
Yeah, but the Holy
No.
Spirit, yeah. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
There.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm gonna be honest. We can't prove or disprove miracles, so this is kind of pointless. Like, you know. So I feel
Yeah,
like we
yeah,
should talk about something that's that's stronger, like
Oh sure, sure.
not specifically, but like Big Bang or like when the world was created or something else. Like
What would you like to talk about?
I don't know. I was gonna ask you that because I feel like miracles it's just bias, honestly,
Yeah.
and we also can't prove or disprove it. So
yeah, yeah.
like it's no really strong evidence. You could argue, but you can't really take it at face value. You can't just believe everything. So well, for atheists, so it's just pointless.
Mm. Um. Okay. Well, I mean, I want to ask then, because like outside of miracles, what else like leads you guys like into God? Like maybe just like because like I know like some theist arguments like at the top of my head, like maybe I wouldn't explain them like right away, like you know, on the spot. But like for example, like I know things like Kalam or like Kalam cosmological argument. Like do you guys like any particular like theist arguments that like try to go about like explaining it? Because I think there's even like a I remember something called like the contingency argument. I forgot how it went, but I'm pretty sure that's like an argument for the existence of God. Do you guys like have anything like that?
Well, I believe that from my whole like life being on Earth in this world, I believe that life comes from like life. Life gives life, and to me, nothingness appearing into something kind of doesn't make sense.
Oh,
So
okay,
I just
that's
believe
interesting.
that God, made the whole universe and the earth and stuff like that because he said let there be light, and then there's like theories of the Big Bang. I feel like we don't know everything. We don't know every single detail in how God did everything. He just said some lines, and so when he said let there be light, I think what he meant was the Big Bang, because the Big Bang was like huge amount of light and explosion,
Hmm.
and that created the universe and the earth and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. This is typically a lot of the things that disbelievers and believers talk about. So I guess and a common thing that I would hear on your side is that oh, this wouldn't just be able to come from nothing. But then I guess it's also been asked multiple times, but I also want to see what you guys say about it, because to me it's the issue I have believing that because at face value I can understand why someone would hypothetically believe in God, because oh, how could this have just supposedly come out of nowhere? But then it kind of puts it in my view that clearly things can come from nowhere even if there is a God, because for example, why would God be an infinite exception? I've been told numerous things oh, God exists outside of time, or God is this infinite source or something like that. So I'm just what makes God an exception then? Because if God could have existed out of nothing and just be infinite, then clearly things can exist out of nothing. And to me, it would simply just makes more sense that okay, that the universe existed out of nothing as well, not God.
I see your point, but the way I would think of it, is he's always just been there. You know, he doesn't need a cause because he is the cause of things happening.
Then isn't God a coincidence then? So technically, you could argue, because I feel even if I take that for what it is, then sure, you can say God
Wait.
created the
Your
universe.
mic is kind of weird. I don't know. I can't really hear you.
Oh crap. Hello.
I don't know. It's still weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm gonna stop the recording and I'll record again until it sounds better.
All right.
All right, we're recording again. What were we gonna say?
Oh no, I'm pretty sure it was your turn.
Oh, oh no, you were talking, because I was explaining how that it seems unbelievable for people to religious people or God believers, you have to think that the universe could have come from nothing. But then to me it sounds like God came from nothing, and it sounds like his existence itself is a coincidence. So to me it just makes more sense to assume that if things can come from nothing, then i.e. in this case God, if he doesn't require an explanation, then how come that's only acceptable for God but not the universe? We have the universe here, and we're debating
Bec-
God, so I think, yeah, arguably it makes more sense. You could arguably think that the universe essentially did come from nothing.
the problem is the universe, the earth. None of this is infinite. This all will end eventually. God is infinite.
I don't know about the universe, maybe our species, because for example, if the sun's gonna explode and annihilate all life on Earth, so sure, maybe our species is not infinite. We living here on Earth are not infinite, but I could see the universe hypothetically existing infinitely even if we're not here. Or at the very least, it's
Well,
an unprovable or disprovable thing, because if we weren't here, nobody would be able to assess if things infinitely exist or not.
yes, but there's bigger things in the universe, multiverses, universes, hyperverses, outerverses, stuff like that.
Mhm.
So clearly, one's ending after the other. It's like a pattern,
Well, I think yeah, that can make sense, because for example, if we end and then it just jump starts again, it sounds like to me the universe just likes to make coincidences, if that's the plural.
Well, if that's the case, then we're really just matter and energy, and I don't think that's the case.
Well, I
Yeah.
do
If
think
there's no God, all you have is matter and energy. That's all you have.
well, I do think the naturalist approach does make more sense on a practical basis anyway. I mean,
Because look, how are you gonna get all of a sudden you're gonna have a consciousness springing out of matter and energy? It's illogical. It's totally irrational. I mean, you
well,
should have seen at another debate I was at. They were saying, "Well, you're right, man. We can't explain it, but we're gonna get there. Just wait, we're gonna get there." And they still haven't been able to explain it. How do you get that from matter and energy? We can get a conscious, a consciousness and a free will.
see, free will is already I'm not gonna say touchy, like that's probably not the word, but I think like I probably have more of a, I guess, controversial take on it. I mean, I don't know, because like if you're somebody that doesn't believe in free will, I think you have more so like the controversial like sort of thing. But I think like, yeah, I mean, arguably we can argue that. I think we can argue that like free will is just an illusion, arguably.
Well, that's just limiting reality. You're saying, here's reality, matter and energy. You're never gonna get a soul, a free will, a personality, this nebulous, non-material thing. If you limit at the start of reality to matter and energy, it's just impossible.
Well, I mean,
And now
sorry.
we're at the point where we need to have a scientific explanation for everything. You better keep science in the area of matter and energy, because like that's what science is based on, the repeatability of an experiment. You better realize that no matter how much good science you do, you're never going to be able to put together a scientific marriage, a scientific friendship, or you're never going to put together a scientific date.
Well, I mean, we have been doing that for like as long as we've existed, I think, because like that's what sociology essentially is. It's like the study of like relationships and how humans like interact with each other, and we do see common themes and like elements and things like that. I mean, I think we
Well,
can
can you prove to me your mother loves you? Huh? You can't. You can't prove to me your mother is just fattening you up to drop arsenic in your tea on Christmas vacation. You can't prove that.
I can't prove that my mother could hypothetically kill me.
Yeah, you couldn't. You couldn't. Because the evidence is
I
that
mean,
you trust
sure,
her. The evidence is that your mother loves you. That's why you don't bring your chemistry kit to the Christmas lunch.
well, I mean, I would believe so in terms of like consistency, but like the truth is nobody can deny that it's possible for her to hypothetically do that, and
Yeah, yeah.
we'd be surprised if she did. So I'm just like, it's technically not off the table.
But like, wait, but why would you be surprised? It
The
isn't just
consistency.
like,
Well, I mean,
but
we
isn't our emotions just chemical reactions though?
yeah, it is.
You know.
So I mean, I think surprise would
So
technically also be a
but
chemical
wait,
reaction.
but if you agree with that, how can you not agree with the fact that if that's the fact, if emotions is just chemical reactions
Hmm.
and there's nothing to it, there really is no love. So she never loved you to begin with, which means
I
why
mean,
would you be
yeah,
surprised that she killed you?
because I think surprise is still technically a chemical reaction as well, because like it's your brain compelling you to feel surprised by something. Some people don't, and it's because they're wired that way. Some people are more apathetic, like let's say like a sociopath that doesn't really like that, because like a sociopath I imagine like feels less emotions than the average person. So they're wired that way, and if you're wired to be surprised at
But
like certain things, then like arguably, oh, and I was also going to say, yeah, because like technically you could argue that the love, quote unquote, that like a mother has for like a child is just evolutionary, because obviously, and like this is what's contradictory about the world, because like arguably in order to succeed, let's say in a capitalist sort of like agenda, if you stomp other people you win. If you put people to dust, like metaphorically speaking, then like you are, at the top of the ranks. But then at the same time, obviously nature wants people to care about each other, because yeah, if we were out just like killing each other and like whatnot, then our species wouldn't thrive for like as long as it did, because essentially, from what I understand, when a mother is pregnant and then suddenly she gives birth, it releases oxytocin in her brain once she's like with her baby. So essentially it is her brain flooding her, compelling her to care for like a child. Arguably, if she wasn't wired that way, because let's say she was a sociopath, and I'm going to imagine, I don't know, maybe the oxytocin doesn't come out, and I don't know all the words, sorry, but like then, well, but you get what I'm trying to say, I think, like more or less. So it's like you could argue that simply it is just evolutionary that a mother cares about her child. It's evolutionary that people care for each other in general, because obviously we have a higher
so
chance of succeeding in tribes.
agreed. But then so how can we blame, murderers and psychopaths for doing what they do? Where does morality come from then? Because I mean,
Power.
if it's just if I can just be a psychopath and that's just a chemical reaction in my brain, in my body, then that kind of justifies me wanting to kill people and just be a narcissist.
Well, I don't necessarily know about like it justifies it. It can justify it like like your narrative, but I think like
Why wouldn't it?
morality comes from, I believe, just like power. Because like I think if you have power, then you can enforce like any rules you want. Like the way I see it, technically, if you kill somebody, you don't have to face consequences for that. And like, hear me out. I know that sounds stupid, like on the get go. But like for example,
No, it's
if
not
some
stupid.
oh wait, well okay, yeah. because like for example, on the surface, if you kill somebody, bars are suddenly not just going to surround you. Handcuffs are suddenly not going to just like appear on your wrist. If you do something, another person has to think that it's wrong, or society in general has to think that it's wrong. Because like hypothetically, if somebody were to kill somebody and we just didn't care and like didn't do anything, the universe would be indifferent to it. So the way I see it, only human beings can care for each other. Only human beings cannot care about each other. Morality is technically not real.
But the thing is, like you said, we can't explain our emotions. They're just chemical reactions.
Well, that is the explanation. Yeah, the arbitrary thing in terms of whose emotions are more justified. Yeah, I don't think anyone can explain that. I believe you can explain the process of the emotions, but not the emotions themselves, is more like how I would put it.
Okay, so you're saying the chemicals, like the chemical reactions in my brain, like they can make me like be mean to you. I can justify it for that.
I mean, if it did,
Or the
yeah.
environment I was raised in.
Oh, sorry, what?
Or the environment I was raised in. Like if I was raised in an environment where I was mean to people, and I say, oh, I was mean to you because of the chemical reactions in my brain and in the environment I was raised in.
Well, I know what a lot of people like to say is that it explains it. It doesn't justify it. Like it gives the reason why it happened, but people are still not going to accept it anyway because of said emotional thingy. But I think like that's a complicated question because it's not necessarily as like straightforward because like then we get into the whole like nature versus nurture. Obviously, both contribute to a person's psychological profile, but the hard thing to discuss is like, okay, yeah, then which one contributes to it more? Is it somebody's upbringing? Is it just how they're wired? Or is it like maybe it's different for some people? Maybe some people are more influenced by their environment. Maybe some people are more influenced just by their like natural wiring. That's the complicated like part of it. I mean, I believe that if you do something to somebody, then sure, you'll have all the reasons for it. Yeah, but then like it might contradict with like somebody else's reasons. So hypothetically, if you were mean to me, yeah, I'm gonna react in however way I react to that, and how I react is gonna influence you. And I mean, yeah, I believe it'll just be like a back and forth, and we can argue about it. But like, who's to say who's justified in how they're acting? Because I think what people do is that as long as they can get their way, why wouldn't they do it? Why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't I do it?
Because God, he says you can't do that. He says you can't kill people.
I'm sorry, what?
So
You said what?
because you said okay, what was your question?
Oh no, I didn't have a question. I was just saying that like because you asked me, for example, like what would it be like if you were like mean to me? Then I think what would simply happen is that like, okay, if you were mean to me, I would react to it however I react to it, and then you'd react to however I react to what you did to me, and it would just go back and forth. So I think like I believe we can argue and fight or debate, quote unquote, because like that's all humans have been doing for like centuries. And so the way I see it, it's just a fight for power. I think everybody thinks that their way and agenda is gonna be the right way because that's what they feel entitled to.
Well, to us, the kind of it's kind of like the opposite because for us Christians, we believe, well, we don't believe, but we know that Jesus Christ didn't want any of that. So it's like you're putting all the humans in one little, one big group, but then there's people like Jesus Christ who completely just don't care about any of that power.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, he didn't do anything bad. He is sinless,
Well,
and that's the role model that he has created for us.
so supposedly, but I think like then it gets complicated because then we start arguing about like moral philosophy. Because I'm just like, I mean, maybe you guys wouldn't see it that way, but I think like, well, I mean, have you seen the videos on my channel? I don't know if you have.
Oh,
Some I've seen some of them.
Well, you know that I'm a narcissist, right? From like the clinical sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I kind of think I kind of see everything as power, admittedly. So to me, it's like the only difference is that like I don't think submitting to power is always a bad thing, admittedly. But like the way I see it, how would it not be for power? Because like if Jesus wants us to like repent or something, and all that kind of stuff, and like basically I see it as submitting to him, or basically I think when we comply to anything, it doesn't matter a person, if you want to think of it as like a religious figure, like we're we're always submitting. Like I can't imagine an existence where there's no such thing as a power dynamic. I think every relationship is a power dynamic.
I mean, power. I mean, God clearly has authority over us if He made us. So I mean, yeah, but then again, it's not power as in like, oh, I just want to command you, tell you what to do. You need to follow what I say, or
Well, I mean, it
like,
does kind of sound like that because like it sounds like if we because like I saw a TikTok that like I agree with, and I think like I've used like a similar argument because like I know you're going to talk about how like let's say like free will, for example, and all that kind of stuff. I kind of spoke about how I don't really believe free will is real technically, or at best I believe free will is also just an illusion. But I think that like if God created everybody, then I think God did create people that were technically designed to like go to hell. He created people that were technically designed to like go like against him.
well, I mean, yeah, that's the whole point. He regretted making humans. You know, he could see in the future and understood that some of us will stray away, some of us will not. That is why he came down and basically told us. He said, "I am the truth, the life, and the way," or like I might have it mixed up, but something like that.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean,
that's why he wanted us to follow him because he understood. He was so wise to tell us all of these good, give us like all these good morals and you know, like teach us these things that we didn't even know about ourselves back like way back then.
yeah. I don't know, because I'm just like, if God is supposed to be this like omniscient person, like meaning that like he knows everything and all that kind of stuff, then like, I mean, he that he would understand like everything hypothetically. Why I wouldn't believe in him? Why somebody would want to do something that he thinks is like awful, and yet he created everything? Like, it's too contradictory for me. Because it's like I don't know if he was like all that powerful, then like he could have easily like made these tweaks. But then again, it's like yeah, it's the whole like oh my gosh, he gives you free will sort of thing. But it's just like that doesn't even make any sense, at least like in my eyes, because it's like you can't give something free will. It either has free will or it doesn't. Because if its free will is dependent upon something else, then technically that thing in and of itself is not in full control.
We have free will in the sense of God doesn't just intervene in our everyday life. Like he doesn't just
Sure, but
earth and do whatever he wants.
I mean, but free will is like a tricky thing for me because it's like what is free will? Because like even the way we express ourselves has been socialized through like other people. Like arguably, would I have a thought process if I, you know, didn't grow up hearing and like speaking English or let's say any sort of like human language? So like then again, it's like I don't necessarily believe that like free will is as like simplistic and like straightforward because what does it mean to be free? I think like yeah, because I take a more of like naturalist approach, even on like on a practical like basis.
The
We
way
are dependent upon the rules of the universe. Like for example, I can't be in this room and be in another room at the same time, so I have to be restricted to whatever the conditions that we exist in are.
I mean, yeah, I mean we're human, so I'd hope so. But
Well,
the way I see it is, free will is kind of just simple. It's God not making us robots, not like his angels. He has complete control and authority over them. He snaps his fingers, says one word, they do what he wants.
I mean,
That's not really free will, is it?
I don't see us as different as like robots, low key. Like if I'm being honest, because like for example, not to like derail, but like people are like, oh my gosh, like should we let like AI advance or something? Because like, what if like robots take over? Like, you know how like that's even been like an ongoing like debate. Like, honestly, I don't really see a difference because like, if an AI is trying to push an agenda, trying to push like, and then like that's what we're terrified of. How is an AI technically different from like a human then? Because that's all humans do. We push our religious or non-religious beliefs. We push our political beliefs. We push our national nationalism. Oh, I'm proud to be from this country, blah blah, this and that. So it's like we are pretty much, I guess, like slaves to these like labels and titles that we place ourselves in. We're coded to like let's say accept these agendas that we've been we wouldn't say programmed because we don't think we're robots, but like we're socialized. But then, like in a way, they kind of sound the same to me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Humans are foolish. We did this to ourselves. Can't disagree with that.
So then, in a sense, you could see why I wouldn't really believe free will is real, right? Or maybe you wouldn't agree with it, but you could see why I think the way I do.
I yeah, I see the way you think, but then again, it's like you're talking about like I guess what you're saying is humans like put themselves in this predicament and stuff, and like uh pushing their agendas and their beliefs and stuff like that. But that's not really compared to like God. God is not a religion. He's just telling you like, look, I am God, and this is how things are supposed to be. Follow me, because if
Yeah.
you do this,
So
the world
God.
will be.
Oh, sorry.
You said what?
I was just gonna say like, but then so in a way, God has an agenda as well, right? Because he has these terms and conditions, and then if you apply, excuse me, you supposedly, you can go to heaven or you can go to hell, blah blah, like things like that. So I do see God as still a human invention, not really something that's like real or like outside of like the natural world that like we inhabit. Because I was talking about this with somebody, and I think that like because like for example, God to me technically sounds no different than a human. He just has the character and characteristics that we wish we had, like times 10. Because like for example, omnipotence. Obviously humans desire power, but what's the most you can get from that in our world? Maybe being a political figure, I don't know, or something like that. Or he has omniscience, like being like super smart. Humans want to be super smart, all this kind of
Well,
stuff. Or let's say God is, what's that word I'm looking for? Well, that word where he can be everywhere, like all at once. Oh yeah, omnipresent. I know humans have said things like, "Oh, I wish I could go to a party and also so and so's funeral at the same time." I don't know. That's just like an example or something. So I don't really see God as like separated from people. God to me just looks like a projection of all the things humans wish they were capable of but aren't.
I mean, you could see it like that, but then again, you said you see a God that's just human.
Or
Is that what you said?
well, when I see God as like no different than a person psychologically, at the very least. I know we treat God as like the most powerful being in the universe, or he exists outside of the universe. He is like in his like own like realm or something like that. But his conditions are technically no different than a person. So I think it's clearly man-made. So therefore, I would come to think that like it's just a projection, and therefore most likely not true that God is actually a thing.
Well, he made us in our image, or in his image. I mean, so
No, I think we made God in our image, admittedly, but
I mean, if he's everything, I mean, he doesn't really have a shape, form, or anything. He's kind of just everything.
I mean,
So human,
Oh, sorry.
no, you get.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I mean, like, I think he has whatever shape we want him to give. So that's why, for example, there's like Hindu gods, Greek gods, Christian gods of different denominations, Islamic. I mean, I know those are all Abrahamic, but like, yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
You said what? I didn't hear that last part.
Oh, I said, I know they're all Abrahamic, overall Abrahamic. I'm fucking up that word, but like, yeah, I think you
Abrahamic.
know. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, so you think that humans made God in their image? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, because I think that explains why we have so many religions or whatever you want to call it, like in
Well,
general, like
now you have to look at which is more like what does the evidence point to being more reliable? That's what you have to decide. You have to make a decision.
yeah, but the my point of view is more so I think because there's so many interpretations of a god in a spiritual realm, it actually indicates to me more just how ambiguous it is, and most likely people are just compensating with it. I mean, because like,
Okay, well,
oh sorry.
go.
I don't know, I was just gonna say because like even like I know it says like in the Bible, Torah or something. Does it say it in the Quran? I'm not sure, but that like thou shalt have like no other gods before me. So clearly, even other religions existed prior. So if Christianity, or let's just say an Abrahamic religion, had the need to say that, then I don't know. It kind of makes me. It kind of like begs the question: Did it came along to like enforce like more power because they had to dismiss other religions that by that logic already existed prior. So even Christianity doesn't seem like it's the I'm I'm willing to double check it, but I do not think it's the oldest religion, for example. So,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
is. It's not, but there's literally other gods in the Bible as well. Like Baal. Have you heard of Baal before?
uh probably not or
Well, it's this idol. It's like a golden calf. But there's literally okay. How do I explain it? Because you have to make a decision, right? Like the agnostic is someone who says I'm not going to decide about Jesus Christ. You know, I'm not going to decide about God. The reason that that is an impossibility is because life continues and death inevitably comes. And after that, there is not another chance to choose. You have to make the decision
um yeah, I mean I
because let me give you an example. If Romeo asks Juliet, "Please marry me, I love you," and Juliet says, I don't know," and then Romeo comes back the next day and says, "Would you please marry me?" And Juliet says, "I don't know." If that pattern continues, Romeo and Juliet will never marry. They will both die, and the decision will have been made by Juliet. I refuse to respond to Romeo's love, and love I refuse his offer of marriage.
hmm,
And by her agnosticism, she has made a decision, and the decision is very simple. No way, Romeo, I'm not gonna marry you. Life, unfortunately, forces you and me to make decisions, and agnosticism is a nice intellectual option because the idea that I don't really have to decide, I don't really know. But when you and I are confronted by the divine lover, by the living God, who really loves you and really loves me, we have to decide. And that's why there was always an urgency to the teachings of Jesus Christ.
I mean, I don't necessarily know about that because like I think that the same message about like I don't know accepting other people I think within like different like religions or even just like how to exist like peacefully like within yourself or even within like other people. I don't think it's an original Christian thought. So arguably I think this is just what people want to idealize because like obviously it's like oh my gosh more peaceful world like that on the get-go sounds better sounds good to like a lot of people so I kind of just see like religions or like spiritual whatever's as like it's the same thing just in like different clothing so
Well,
I don't really see the particular thing where it's like okay you would technically have to be Christian in order to believe that because I don't see that as like an exclusive belief to like oh Christianity
well,
let's say.
let's go back then because you I think you were trying to say like, oh, you don't believe in Christianity because it also wasn't the first religion, right? Maybe,
Well,
right?
it's a supporting thing about like that's not giving credit to the other religions though.
No, no, I understand. But if we go back, right, what other religion has had prophecies or predictions before, like let's say they have like a main person believing before that main person, during that main person, after that main person. We can look at every single religion, and really the only one that seems appealing because of its evidence is really Jesus Christ. I mean, he had a prediction before, during, and after. And there's just many manuscripts, Dead Sea Scrolls,
Hmm.
like a lot of text that we could read upon.
Sure, sure, but
That kind of just
it
it, basically my point is to end it off is basically Christianity doesn't really have to have or be the first religion
hmm,
if it has its evidence to back it up.
Yeah, and to add on to that, the New Testament that we have today in English today is how do I explain it? Hold on. Hold on. Something happened with my thing here. This is okay. Let me explain it now. Because the New Testament that we have in English today, it's based on over like 5,700 Greek manuscripts or pieces of manuscripts, plus 10,000 Latin Vulgate manuscripts before the Kuzberg printing press, plus over 9,000 manuscripts in Syriac, Coptic, Ethiopic, Armenian, Slavonic, and Gothic. Over 9,000. We have so much manuscript of the New Testament. It's embarrassing. Not only that, if you wipe out all the manuscripts out in the writings of the early church fathers from the second to the fourth century A.D., 38,289 quotes. Every verse in the Bible except 11 are quoted in the early church fathers.
Not only that, like Jesus Christ is a all world religion. It's not just like to one people to another. It's just it like he showed himself everywhere. The oldest like Bible is the Ethiopian Bible. I'm pretty sure. Like he went to Africa. He went to a lot of places. It's not you can't say it's a chance or a coincidence. Like,
Why not?
come on,
I mean, because
why can't? Why
again, because
would
like
you? I mean,
I just keep going back to the whole we have to rule out that it's not like a post hoc fallacy. Because like for example, in the same breath, I think if you could have written like anything down and given the world like enough time to hypothetically exist, like who's to say that anyone can't be like credited to something? Because like even like simplistically, everyone's thought of like the flying car at like one point. I imagine like you guys have, but it's like when somebody creates, hypothetically does create like the flying car, we can't like accredit every single human being that like conceived of like the idea, because like to me it just sounds like, okay, if Jesus said this or if anybody said this and like they were claiming it, and then it's like, oh, people didn't believe him because it didn't like happen yet, and then like suddenly it did, they're like, oh, I remember that guy saying blah blah blah. So it's like there really needs to be given like a strong web of like connection there, because like what's stopping anybody from creating like a whole bunch of like conspiracy theories, like um yeah, like I don't
well,
know, again, just
I,
flying car example, like not everyone's going to be credited to that. It's going to be the person that
I
actually made
see.
it.
Yeah, I see your point. I can agree, but then again, you'd have to like study even more for yourself and see the fact that around like everywhere Jesus went, like traveled, they all had paintings and I guess portraits and pictures of him. And maybe besides the skin color, they all look the same. Like if you go to an Ethiopian Bible, he looks just the same as pretty much every other Jesus from everywhere around the world.
Um,
Sure, its perspective is different because the Chinese person might make Jesus look Chinese. Black person might
well,
make
well, why would they do that? Because that doesn't really happen to like anybody now. Like if we see somebody like or I don't really know any other person where somebody would like get like their like race like mixed up for like the most part. So I think like it makes me even more suspicious, because like if people are saying, oh, Jesus is black or Jesus is like this white guy in a painting, then it's just like to
well,
me it's like it makes me think like who actually knows what they're talking about then?
we know that Jesus wasn't white or black. He
Like Middle
was he
Eastern.
was yeah, he was like kind of I think he was in the middle, something like that. Like tan, some maybe a little darker. We know that it could just be dishonesty and maybe the people painting, I mean the humans, I mean they're human, so maybe they just wanted to be dishonest and color him a different way.
Mhm.
Or maybe, they saw Jesus Christ in their dream, drew him, and that's just how they saw him as the black person. It's a lot of factors in it.
Sure. But then like I don't know, like if one guy could have like possibly done this, created so much, like yeah, like 'cause like hypothetically, I don't think anything could rule out that like Jesus is either possibly like the greatest con man ever, or hypothetically, like not even in a rude way, I'm mentally ill myself, but just
No,
like
no, no,
was
no.
hypothetically a mentally ill person, and his influence just so happened to spread this far. Because I mean, it's obviously people with out there ideas that are going to be spoken about, you know.
Agreed. He could either be the biggest liar, or he could either be, someone who's telling the truth and wants the best for us. The way I see it is, he did not, him and his people did not die just for some funny joke. They had lives of themselves and, wives and kids. They wouldn't just give their life up if they're just lying and scheming. I highly doubt that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they weren't just dead; they were tortured for. I mean, I don't know how long, but I'm assuming they were the Romans or whatever. They were having fun, So that's not really something that any person in this world would just say yes to. I mean, maybe I'm crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, one time apparently, I don't remember where it happened, but like there was a mass hysteria incident where like a bunch of people couldn't stop dancing. I don't know what that was about, but that happened apparently.
Dancing? What the? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's like like they kept doing it even to the point of like exhaustion. So I believe people are capable of like hypothetically the craziest shit.
I can agree, but the problem is with that is, can like I don't think a human person can endure the type of torturing and death that was put upon the apostles and Jesus. Like I can't put it into words. Like it's very like cruel and horrific. Like you can argue that people have been, killed and tortured, but the way they were tortured and killed, which I'm not saying is any better or any worse,
Mhm.
it's just crazy. Like you put any military person who's been trained or anyone who's just been trained completely to not say a word about something or just do anything, and if you torture them and even a little bit, they break. I mean, I don't know, and
Well, I
it's
mean,
not
yeah,
just one person.
that's a hard that's a hard thing to like I guess like figure out because like I know people are gonna raise like ethical issues with it because like I don't imagine there's a lot of like experiments done on like can you be the best secret keeper even with like all these like
Whoa,
different like
whoa.
methods of torture, so like I think that's hard to say.
No, 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 no. There sure are a lot of people out there who've tortured people.
I'm not denying
Of
that.
course, there's a lot. Now, maybe not experiments that we know of, you know, but hidden could be. But there's also been a bunch of cases where military men have been taken hostages and tortured. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, I'm not denying that, but it's just like I mean, I guess like because I think obviously a lot of that also has to do with like somebody's like endurance of pain. Some people have, um, you know,
okay, well, we could argue that. Let's argue that. Um, I think there was like 12 apostles and then even more followers. I don't know if I'm mistaken. I might be. But not one denied it. You would think that one would be scary and all that, and could not withstand the pain. But then again, like none of them broke. So I mean, I don't know.
um, no, I still like yeah, I don't know, because it's like hypothetically, if somebody's like endurance for pain is stronger than their sensitivity to being like close to death. I could imagine it looks like they're like immediately like a great like secret keeper, let's say.
Okay, but like I said, like so now you're telling me that every single one of those apostles' pain tolerance are just extremely above human, or what?
I mean,
Because they were bleeding out as they were being tortured. So I don't think bleeding out has anything to do with endurance. I mean, I personally, I think
well, like, isn't it like if you start like bleeding out, your senses kind of like weaken, like maybe like it's hard to kind of like process things in general. Because I think also the other thing that like there is to like consider is like I mean I'm not necessarily saying they had like the best like endurance, but I'm saying that like I don't think there is a straightforward answer to this because it's like yeah it would be unethical I imagine by today's standards to like find out. sort of thing. But even then, it's like if you're tortured enough in like a lot of cases, it's like people pass out, people
Well, from the pain,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, because like people escape, people detach when like in all sorts of like horrific sort of like situations. So it's just like who's to really say that like, oh, they had strong pain tolerance or
Well,
not? But then at the same time, it's like their minds easily could have just wandered, because like we are capable of that if necessary to cope.
yeah, it's just the way we cope. I agree, but then again, you have to think about the way torture works. I'm pretty sure they're not just gonna torture and torture and torture on and on and on. That's gonna kill the human, the person.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure the way they did it was just like throughout time. Maybe they tortured, he passed out, kept going, like probably multiple sessions. I think that would be the most logical way of
Mm.
you know getting an answer or words from someone who doesn't want to speak.
Then
That's how you truly, you know,
mm.
I'd say torture.
then
Sorry, yeah,
oh, sorry. Then hypothetically, like if they were being tortured and they kept like passing out, then they definitely wouldn't have gotten anything. If they kept being tortured even when they brought them back, and they kept like escaping from reality in order to like tolerate the abusive situation that they were in, then they definitely wouldn't have gotten anything.
what are you saying? Like if they just kept passing out?
Well, because it seems like I know they wouldn't. I wouldn't imagine they would just like kill the person right away, because like obviously they're trying to torture somebody to get like some sort of like truth out. But then
Well,
hypothetically, I
entertainment
could
as well.
imagine
Yeah.
I could imagine that like if they kept passing out, or they kept like escaping, I'd imagine they would stop just to like bring this person back, because maybe like this person's not talking, they're not like, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean by multiple sessions. Yeah.
Yeah, so if that kept happening like repeatedly, then to me it makes sense why they never would have gotten anything despite all the torture they've been doing, until hypothetically it superseded and they ended up dying.
We don't. I mean, we don't really know if they just kept on passing out. I highly doubt that. You still feel pain when you wake up and stuff. So the pain would surely wake you up. I mean, pretty sure that's how it works. Most cases I've seen, people will get passed out and then have to wake up. Pain should completely wakes them up, and now their adrenaline is pumping and pumping, the heart pumping, and the
Oh yeah,
brain.
yeah. Oh yeah,
The brain's like the biggest sensor.
that's a good point too as well, honestly, because like I think like even in a lot of cases, like adrenaline can stop you from feeling pain, or like adrenaline can do like I hear like like a shit ton of things. It's like why in certain cases like mothers can like literally lift an entire fucking refrigerator out just to like save their baby or something like that. So that could also possibly factor in as to why nothing necessarily came out of them, because their adrenaline was saving them in a lot of cases.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say their adrenaline was saving them, mainly because of the fact that adrenaline works a little like a really very differently. It mainly works when you're like in deep trouble, and for them, they were scared, but probably wasn't enough for their adrenaline. I'd say they were just very, very scared, and they knew they couldn't get out, or like they knew there was no real hope in just lying and saying, "Oh, this is not the truth." Da, da, you know.
Well, but then I don't know. It doesn't necessarily sound unbelievable to me, because like see like okay, we're discussing how they may or may not have reacted, so it doesn't seem like nobody actually like knows like a full account. Like for example, it's like would you imagine? Because I imagine it would be for like a lot of people where it's like sure, it's not necessarily torture, because in what I'm about to talk about right now, like you'd like immediately die. But then like okay, you can imagine for example that like a lot of people would find it scary to like get on a plane and then like crash into like an enemy base or something, like what the Japanese did during like World War II, when a lot of them were like
You mean
kamikaze pilots.
like they land and they're scared of being hostages, or like you mean like scared of dying?
No, oh, I'm talking about kamikaze pilots.
Oh,
Yeah. You know what that is.
I'm not too familiar with it.
Oh, it's
Like I've heard about it, but I haven't done any real research on it. No.
yeah. They were like they would be like whatever you call them, Japanese soldiers or something. Oh, yeah, basically they would be in the planes and they were willing to sacrifice their life like like for the Japanese Imperial Army, like for like honor, whatever, all this kind of stuff. So they would be willing to fly it, crash into it, kill whoever they can in the process, including sacrificing like their own life. Like if a human is capable of doing that, then like I think people can overcome like their fear if they're really like struck with like their agenda, because like if it's not possible, then like why would there have been kamikaze pilots in the first place? Because like I imagine if you have the preservation to like live and survive, because like that's considered like normal or something, it should be frightening to get in a plane and just like crash into whatever, kill a bunch of like your enemy, so to speak, but like in the process sacrifice your own life as well.
See, the problem I see with that though is right.
Or even a
I could
suicide
easily
bomber.
take a yeah. I mean, I could take a bullet in the head rather than torture any day. I could take a bullet and yeah, like you said, I could just sacrifice myself and stuff. But then again, like I wouldn't want to be. I'd rather just die quickly than tortured. None of those kamikaze dudes who sacrificed their life, they knew they were dying a painless death. Not really painless, but you know what I mean. It's a quick death. So of
Yeah, they
course,
did it. They did it for, I imagine, because like they were doing it for like honor. But then within like the
yeah,
same psychology and like mentality, why couldn't that have hypothetically gone through with like Jesus's let's say, yeah, like followers and like whatnot? Because like people can be incredibly devoted if they see that the cause they're like, because like for example, even in yeah, it's not necessarily like torture and like all that stuff, but it's just like if people were
yeah,
devoting their entire like lives to this, then like if anything, to me, and especially since we know people are capable of like doing these things, or even like that one incident where I think there was that one dude who convinced a whole bunch of people to like drink poison. I don't remember what it was, some sort of like sacrificial like thing or like whatever. Like it sounds to me like if a whole bunch of these people have been, you know, have soaked their blood in this agenda pretty much their like entire lives, and I think like death does not look, or even torture does not look like a big deal, because like essentially they've devoted everything of their being to it.
you kind of proving my point, but would you kind of like chained away from it?
I mean,
You
I'm
said
not
that
I'm not proving your point. I'm just saying that I don't see it
well, you almost
as
did.
I don't see it as like outside of the realm that people can die for things that are not true just because they believe it's true.
Oh, of course not, and I agree. But
Even
but
torture.
like you were saying, you said that the humans can die for what they believe in if it's the truth, right?
No, not
Well, that's a
not no,
possibility.
not if it's the truth. If they believe it's the truth, I don't necessarily believe
Yeah.
it has to be the truth. But if they believe that it's truth, then yeah.
Well, I
'Cause-
mean, they saw Jesus Christ. They all saw, and Jesus also came to them in dreams and appeared to them and revealed himself.
I
They
don't
all
think
saw
dreams
that
are a
Jesus
big deal, to be
Christ came
honest.
alive and was the truth, and then healed people. You said what?
Oh, I said I don't think dreams are a big deal, to be honest. Or maybe this is just me because I have like a different experience. I don't really dream much, or it's like
Well,
I have it's questionable to me because like I know a lot of people like to think that like dreams say a lot about like our like subconscious and whatnot, but I kind of just see it as like, okay, that's one interpretation, but how do
yeah,
you know?
there's many interpret. I agree. I can agree on that. Um, not to derail, but yeah, there's a bunch of religions and like ways people think that dreams can like be deja vu or dreams can be predictions or whatever. So I can agree with that.
Mhm.
But then again, you'd have to account for like the people that Jesus Christ revealed himself to and etc. So if you're not going to count those, you'd have to at least count the rest.
Um, well, I don't know what you mean by like count the rest or something. I'm just like, because like
Basically,
to me, the basis of using a dream for anything, like to me, is just like not
well,
useful in my point of view.
yeah, and in your perspective, the way I see it, I agree. But then again, you have to look at the Bible and the Word of God. He says that He's going to appear to you
Supposedly,
in dreams and and stuff like that,
yeah,
or
yeah,
like in yeah. So
yeah. It's
it's a big deal to them, but maybe not
question.
to you, of course.
Yeah, I mean, because like it's questionable to me, like I mean, obviously, because I don't believe in God, whether or not like the Bible truly is like the word of God, because like the way I see it, supposedly God was in contact with, well, basically, let's say like a lot of the people that like, contributed to like the Bible's like existence, and like they like wrote it down. Yeah, it comes back to the whole like, why should I just believe those people? Like, if anything, they could have been insane, they could have been con men, they could have been anything. So yeah, to me, it's more like I have questions about that.
I could be mistaken, but I highly doubt that God ever told them to really write it. They wrote it so that they could remember him and
Well,
follow his teaching.
well, yeah,
Because
I don't
God,
know.
Jesus Christ, they thought that he was so wise.
Well, yeah, same difference, same difference. Yeah, but yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is that like, yeah, it's like supposedly they thought they had information that, yeah, like whether or not God told them to write it, yeah, okay, I don't know, but it's like basically they wrote it down thinking that, okay, this is like the word of God. These are the things that, God supposedly wants us to like lead through like his example. So yeah, it's questionable to me, because just like, okay, why are we just taking these people at face value?
I mean, then it's kind of hard because then you would have to like take in. There's a lot of things you take at face value, so it's kind of,
History,
you know. You said what?
like history.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
and
see,
not just history really, but like honestly, everything around you just take at face value. So it's kind of hard to really just say that,
I mean,
like plain.
I've been questioning things as far as like I could remember, like even history. I know that people paint like a
Mhm,
different
of course.
a different picture depending on like where you live and like all that kind of stuff, or like, because like even like take for example, like in Japan, they have a different point of view when it comes to like World War II, obviously, or I guess like even
Mhm.
a whole bunch of other
Yep, different
countries.
perspective. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. Yep.
so it's like I think ever since, yeah, like I've been like growing up and like all that stuff, I've been questionable about like all the agendas that like we've been
Yep.
given, because like obviously the ones we're given are pointed out towards like the bias of our group and the bias of the
Yep.
other group, what they believe, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, I think not even just religion, like not even just like the Bible or something. It's like everything in general. Like I think you, in a way, you should even question what your government tells you, like everything.
Yep. 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 I am literally the same way, and I can agree. But I'm sorry. Then again, I can't base my whole life on 100% skepticism. It's just not. You can't do that.
I mean,
Otherwise, I'm gonna end up like a very sad and lonely man.
a what,
It's just
man?
a very like sad and lonely man. If I'm just skeptical of everything around me, I'm gonna be very
Well,
paranoid and
what do you mean by
not
sad and
happy.
lonely?
Well, if I'm paranoid, or I guess like you said, what's the word? Skeptical of everything, 100% skeptical of everything around me. Then how will I trust? How will I love? How will I do a lot of these things that us humans kind of need to do and want to do? You know,
Well, I mean,
you
honestly,
can't.
sometimes I just laugh at the absurdity.
What do you mean?
I mean, because like I can get extremely nihilistic because of like said skepticism, especially like even epistemological nihilism. Like, oh my gosh, can we actually know anything? Yada yada yada, and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, I mean, I don't know. Though at least like for me, I don't worry about it too much, or at least like, yeah, I question things, I argue with people, I hypothetically pick like what they have to say, but at least like it doesn't bother me too much, because I think like, well, I don't believe in an afterlife, so I think like once it's over, I'm not literally just not going to care about anything. I'm dead.
No, yeah, I could see your point. Of course, be skeptical, but to really just sit there and kind of like try and be skeptical of everything around you, that's just not. I mean, you could live that way, but is it really a way you want to live? It's not possible either way. I mean, it's impossible to just be skeptical of everything around you. You know, that's just what I was saying. But
Mm.
I can see your point.
I mean, I don't know. We'll see what tomorrow looks like. I guess that's all we can say for anything. If we get it tomorrow.
You may not. You never know.
Yeah.
Sally, do you have anything to add or any like
Is he
he's
still here?
I don't even know. Yo, Salad.
Bruh. Shit, imagine if he's been talking and like he's been having like technical difficulties the entire time.
Yikes. I don't know. Well, it
Hey,
doesn't.
hey,
Oh,
can
okay.
you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
good.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what were you saying?
Well, we
My,
can
my, my
start.
mic was not working. My mic.
Well, we can either start a new topic, or we could just keep on with this. I don't. It doesn't really matter. But basically, talking about as of right now, skepticism, and basically he was saying, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. He was saying like he's skeptical of everything around him, and I basically told him that it's kind of just hard to be skeptical of everything around you. Like 100% skepticism isn't really a thing, and we agreed, we disagreed. Basically, that's it.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, yeah, you don't go around like proving things in life. Like that's just not what life is about.
oh really? Because like, I mean, I don't know. This is a toxic thing to say, but like, I kind of just see life as a series of arguments. I'm not gonna cap with you. I mean, not necessarily heated or like confrontational, but it's like when we talk to people, obviously we show them things that have shaped what we believe. I don't know, our experience or like whatnot, and then we like share it. So I'm just like, in a way, because like at least the way I see life is that like you can only either agree with people or like disagree with them. So technically you're always contradicting other people. Not all the time, but like, if you come across somebody that thinks even slightly differently from you, even if you're saying something like, "Oh yeah, I see what you mean, but for me it's more like X, Y, and Z, whatever."
Agree, but I will never like deny somebody like as the person they are in their experiences just because I disagree with them. Which yes,
Deny.
like yeah, we did the contradiction. It kind of is like that, but that doesn't mean you just deny somebody's experiences. It
Well,
just means that you've had experiences. It's just how life is.
yeah, I'm like, okay, this is how you see it, this is how I see it, and then yeah.
Anyway, I gotta be right back. So, fella, you gonna have to take over.
Oh, okay,
Oh, are you
okay,
leaving?
No, I'm not leaving. I just got to do something real quick.
Oh no.
okay. Well, you have to make a decision. Like I'm pretty sure you've already made a decision, but you're gonna have to serve for someone or something. Like serve your corporation, serve your mistress, serve capitalism, materialism, serve utopianism, serve yourself and be a narcissist, serve your nerve endings and be a hedonist, and live for the next party and jam those nerve endings just to get a thrill. You will serve, like you will serve or live for someone or something.
Yeah, I mean, I do believe we're just using something to cope, just like otherwise we know the other option, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back. Anyway, well, what were you guys talking about?
Like, I guess like what people need to like keep going. Like I said, like I agree that like everybody essentially uses something in order to get through there, like an idealized like longing for something.
I agree. The way I see it, right? Um, you don't have to believe in the Bible, but I don't lose anything if, let's say, God isn't real,
Oh, I've heard this
and
argument. Let's go.
yeah, I mean, I don't lose anything just for believing in it, and also I gain everything for believing in it. So, I
Oh,
mean, you live in life, you live not a sinless life, but you do become the best version of yourself in a way.
oh, I thought you were gonna do Pascal's wager. Well, in a way, that's kind of like what
Wait,
you're.
what yeah, I actually never heard of that. So
Oh,
sorry.
oh yeah. Pascal's wager is basically like, oh, it's better to believe in God because like if it's true, then oh, you end up in heaven, but like if it's not, then like oh, you like burn in hell for like an eternity. There's
Oh, and we can't do that. We're not supposed to judge. That's we can't. We don't have the right. So no, I don't know what Christian told you that, but we can't do that. So
well, I don't know if Pascal himself was necessarily a Christian because I think like it's his argument. Yeah, it's literally called Pascal's like wager or something. I've heard it. I mean, not necessarily in a judgmental way, but maybe it was just a food for thought sort of thing. Well, I mean, yeah, let's
well,
be honest. I'm sure some of them have used it in like a very like judgmental way.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. For us, we can't really convince or tell people to become Christian.
Yeah.
We basically preach, and you don't have to listen, but we basically preach so that maybe the Holy Spirit can, convince you and maybe change your heart and renew your heart.
Or the seed
And
will be planted. That's also like one way I've heard it being said.
I mean, if you want to call it a seed, I guess, yeah. But like, we're not, we don't. People don't just preach just because they need you or want to force you. They preach because they want to like they want you basically to do better as a person or as like a group of people.
Hmm.
We Christians, we're not saying that we're better than you guys by any means. That's the reason we preach, to let you guys know that we aren't better, but we can be better. You know,
Hmm.
and obviously I'm not here to preach or nothing, but I'm not a good preacher. I'm just letting you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
Oh, I'm surprised we've gotten this far, and I've never actually asked what kind of Christian are you guys? Like, would you say non-denominational? What? Or
Well, me personally, I'm gonna
yeah.
go first because I'm gonna keep it short because like I said, I am lukewarm. I am
Mhm.
ashamed of that, but I will do better, of course. Um, Me, I don't really believe in religion. I believe in Jesus Christ and just his love and his faith. That's really it. There's like really, there's like Catholic and Orthodox. If I were to become one of those, probably Orthodox.
Mhm.
But me, I just believe in Jesus Christ and having faith in him and believing that the world would be better if everyone followed him. That's it.
Mm.
Yeah, and for me, it's the same way. No religion. I just follow what Jesus Christ says. He doesn't lie. I'm not gonna follow some religion that is or some denomination that lies. And there's a difference between the religious spirit and the Holy Spirit. You know.
I see. It sounds
You know.
it sounds non-denominational to me, or at least like that. Like, I know you guys like wouldn't agree with me, but it's like that's how I see it. Because like I kind of see non-denominational as its own denomination, because obviously it's still different from, I don't know, let's
Yeah,
say
that makes
somebody that's
sense. That makes
Catholic,
sense.
Mormon, whatever, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but the religious spirit, it's basically just like dominating. It's like whatever you hear about like bad things happening in like religion. That's just religious spirit.
But yeah, like you said, you were saying something about like denomination and how it's not the same as a Catholic and stuff,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
Basically, the just the main reason why I don't really believe in churches, which is not that churches are bad, but sometimes humans, stray from the path and things happen. They sin, we sin. So the reason why I don't go to church, or I don't believe in church, is because Jesus never said to be baptized or to do any of these things. He said you would do it because you follow me, but you don't necessarily have to, because even Jesus Christ probably, he knew, I'm pretty sure, that anyone can just claim the word of God and just not do it. That's why, like, not to derail or to even add any other religion or hate or nothing, but Muslims, they like to say that people in the Crusades and like all these things, God never doesn't teach this or like says to do this. Meanwhile, the Quran is like says otherwise, or let's say other religions. Just
if
because I don't want to offend it. But yeah, that's
if people are listening to this and they like gotten this far, there might be Christian, no, sorry, Muslims in the comments that want to debate with you now.
I mean, I don't I refrain from that because I just don't understand how they could, not to derail again, but I don't know how they could believe in Muhammad, who lived like 500 years after, and they don't believe the apostles and stuff. So I just refrain from that.
Mm.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I mean, it sounds like we've duked out, I guess, like the differences that we wanted to, like, I guess, inquire about with each other, unless you guys want to like add more.
I don't. I mean, truthfully speaking, I don't believe that you're wrong or I'm right. I just believe that you have your experiences and I have mine. And so, you know, peace be upon you, and I hope
Okay.
that God can encounter if, in any way, maybe if you would like that. That's really it.
Well, we'll see. Time will tell. Never know what's gonna happen in blah 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 years if I even make it that far, let's say. But before I like end this, is there anything you guys possibly want to shout out? Like, I don't know, YouTube channel, social media, anything like that?
Oh no, I don't really do any of that.
No, me neither.
All right.
But
Oh, what?
what's your channel?
Oh, I'll send you our video after it's done like uploading.
No, like the name, you know,
Oh, Stoner Chill.
Stone Ritual.
Yeah,
Well, you guys subscribe to him, man.
I appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. If you've gotten this far in the like whole thing, peace out.